pleasure to welcome onto Avry Sports Show former NHLer and current Oilers Nation writer Brian Sutherby. Brian, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Tell me, Brian, how's the transition from being an active player to being a media guy treating you now?
It's a little different. Obviously, I missed the game a little bit. No questions there, but it's been fun trying to make the transition and figure out exactly what's up next after hockey. And I've been fortunate enough to have Jason Gregor reach out to me and be a good friend and allow me to come on his show once a week. And he's been a real help there. And then obviously with Oilers Nation, just getting to write and having a platform like that, it's been fun. It's been a good learning experience.
I can imagine it has been, Brian. Of course, with the Edmonton Oilers right now, this has been a year. It's just gone from bad to worse. Of course, they lose 3-2 against the Anaheim Ducks. This is a team where the schedule, it doesn't get any easier right now. They're 11, 21-3. And if you're Dallas Aikens, Brian, right now, what do you tell this team right now just getting back on track, really?
I don't know if there's a lot you can tell them. Obviously, it's been not the start they wanted, and I think there's probably a lot of frustration right now, and I think at some point here that McTavish is obviously going to have to do something. The makeup of this team just doesn't seem quite right. A lot of the forwards are very similar players, and they don't really have an identity and have an ability to play any other way than just try to use their speed, and they don't really have an ability to push people around or play a different game when they're not able to generate offense a certain way. And I think for Aikens, he's just trying to continue to instill his system and try to get guys to play more of a well-rounded game, because a lot of guys right now are just simply one-dimensional offensive guys. So I think for him, he's probably just looking to see which guys are willing to learn and willing to forge on, even though the season's barely third done, but obviously they're out of it, and this is a good time to see who's got the character and the will to push on and continue to fight every night. So I'm sure that's what he's doing.
Of course, you mentioned playing every night. What have you thought about the Oilers at home not being ready to play? Because there have been some nights where they've come out to Rexall Place and they've been blown out 4-0, 5-0. I know for yourself, I'm sure in the various NHL cities that you played in, you wanted to show up and give a good effort so that your home fans left the arena happy.
Yeah, it's a little strange that obviously their home record hasn't been what people would expect. And, for me, always coming back here or coming to any Canadian city, you're always fired up to play. And it's tough a little bit for me to speak to in the sense that I never played in the Canadian market. And so I don't really know what these guys are going through day to day with the media pressures and whatnot. Obviously, being in some of the markets I was in, it was a lot more relaxed from that standpoint. So I think it's sometimes that the pressure probably gets to these guys. I'm sure they're probably squeezing their sticks a little too much when times are down, and at points that the pressure and the media and the fan base can sometimes be overwhelming, I would think, and can affect their game on home ice. So, but I think ultimately it just comes back to what I talked about earlier, where they're just not a team that's able to change their game given certain situations. If things aren't working at home, they're not able to be physical. They're not able to change their game and try to adapt and do something different, because they're all very similar players, and that makes it somewhat difficult when you're struggling and trying to climb out of holes. They don't have a lot of guys that are comfortable pushing back or being physical, and at times you've seen them get manhandled and almost look like they don't care. And I don't know if they necessarily don't care, but most of the guys aren't overly physical and aren't overly mean guys to play with an edge. So I don't think that their frustration really comes out and is visible to fans when sometimes you'd like to see it.
No, it's very true, Brian. They're not physical enough, man. With Dallas Aikens as new bench boss, his team's been through so many coaches since firing Craig McTavish, and of course already there are those wanting to fire Dallas Aikens. I can't imagine that another new coach coming in for 2014, 2015 will make much of a difference, will it?
I don't think so. I know that there's been a lot of people already calling for his head, and I'm not in that room. I don't know necessarily what's going on, but I have spoken to a few guys, and The guys that I have, it doesn't sound like he's necessarily the problem. And quite frankly, at this point, if he was a problem, I don't know if the players have much choice or say. It's been 5 years, 5 different coaches, and at some point, the players have to find a way to buy in. And if it's not the players, then the GM has to find the right players. And they got to figure out which guys are willing to adapt and play for any coach. I mean, at some point as a player, it doesn't matter who's coaching you, who's sending the message. You either got to have the right players to do it in the right mix, or you just as a player have to say it doesn't matter who the coach is. So I don't think at this point that there's much of a leg to stand on as far as trying to blame a coach. It's been a long time now. It's been a long rebuild for fans, and I think the best thing to do right now is keep the coach and see who's going to be the guys, like I said earlier, that are going to persevere here and not give up and be the guys that want to buy into his system and become better players and choose to win. And the guys that don't want to do that, I'm sure we'll find out soon here, and they'll have to make some moves.
No, they're most definitely going to have to, Brian. As we're talking about the issues with the forwards, there's also deficiencies on defense. I will say this. There have been some guys who I've liked so far this year. One example is the captain, Andrew Ference. But going forward, what changes need to happen on this team first? Do you need to make changes first on up front or on the blue line?
Well, I think right now the immediate need would be defense. But I'm not letting the forwards off very easily when I say that. I think that the defense, obviously when you look at their lineup, they don't have a ton of depth there. They don't have a number one, probably even a number two. And on a really good team, you could argue they maybe don't even have a number three. I mean, they have a lot of guys that, are good 4, 5, and 6 defensemen on good teams. But they've got a lot of guys that are playing against players that probably shouldn't be if they were on a good team. So there's a definite hole there that they need to address in their first couple defense spots. And obviously that's proving difficult because number one and number two defensemen are tough to find in this league. But at the same time, that would be priority number one. But the forward group for me isn't far behind. As I mentioned earlier, they're all pretty much the same player. They're very small, and they all play a similar game, aside from Perron and a guy like Gordon, who's more of a mucker, and I guess Ryan Smith. But even in saying that, with all those guys, they're not very physical. They don't have much size. There's barely a guy over 6 feet, and they all play one way, which is offense, and not a lot of responsibility to get back in the defensive zone, which doesn't help your defense at all. And they're not a team that's hard to play against. They're not physical. They don't get pucks in deep. They don't make it hard on defensemen at all to go back and get the puck and create turnovers or wear anybody down physically. It's just simply a skating game, and for most people to come in and play the Oilers right now, it's a pretty easy night. So they've got a lot to address, and I don't think it's just the defense, but that's certainly the key factor right now.
Ilya Bryzgalov made the start for the Oilers against the Ducks, and Devan Dubnyk is still considered the number one goaltender on this team. But how much time does he have to try and fight to keep his job before he loses that to Bryzgalov?
Well, I think he's just got to not let in goals like against Boston. He's proven that he's a good goalie in the sense that his save percentage over the other day, I mean, it's the best all time in Edmonton. He's gone through great stretches where he's been a good goalie, and he's had games where he stood on his head even this year and stole games for the team. But obviously, when you're letting in goals against Boston, and that's sort of the norm with these a little bit has over the course of the years has been that he lets in a soft goal here or there, and that can be very deflating, even especially for a team that's struggling right now and needs any kind of help they can get. And I think for him, he's gonna be in a dogfight here with Bryzgalov if he keeps playing well. I think they're at a point right now where they're gonna ride the hot hand, and if Bryz is playing well, they're gonna give him the net. And obviously, they didn't bring him in just for this year. They were hoping that he could rebound, and I assume they'll try to re-sign him if he plays well. So, Dubnyk, he could go on to be a great goalie, and who knows if his future will be here in Edmonton. But I think right now, especially after that Boston game, that if Briz keeps going, they're probably going to leave him in the net.
What have you thought so far about Marcobello? He came into the lineup to replace Sam Gagner after he broke his jaw, and he has stayed up with the big club. A 26-year-old rookie, he truly has been one of the bright spots on his Oilers team.
I really liked his game. I guess the biggest thing for me is, and the only issue is that his size, and I know that's been, I'm sure, a critique of his entire career, which I admire. He plays a courageous game. He hits. He blocks shots, and he's been very good offensively. And he's done everything that's been asked of him. The only unfortunate thing is that, he's the same size as 8 or 9 of their forwards, and on the other team, he'd probably be that great little spark plug, and he is that. But obviously, right now with their makeup, I don't know if he's as respected as he should be or getting the time in the lineup that he would be, because they are again very similar players. So I think he's earned his spot. I think he's going to continue to play, and he deserves to play. He's playing a two-way game, and he's one of the few guys that I see that's back-checking and playing a good two-way game, which is what you need to do to win in this league. It's not all about offense, and he finishes his checks, and he does everything he can with his size, and he deserves to be going right now, and hopefully he can keep going in that direction.
Hopefully he can. And Brian, for the blast talking to you, man, tonight. Hopefully we do it again sometime.
Sounds good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Of course, no problem, Brian. Talk to you soon, man.